My name is Wendy Dixon. I'm 32 years old, and 3 weeks ago, my entire life changed during my parents' 40th wedding anniversary party. The dining room was full of people. Neighbors. Church friends. Old coworkers. 30 guests sat around tables covered in white cloth and shining crystal glasses while soft music played in the background. Candles glowed across the room. Everyone smiled like we were the perfect family. I should know. I was the one who spent the whole week making sure everything looked perfect. I ordered flowers. I wrote place cards by hand because my mother wanted them to look elegant. I polished silverware until my fingers hurt. I coordinated the caterer. I ironed tablecloths. I even rearranged the living room furniture 3 different times because my mother kept changing her mind. On the day of the party, I arrived at 7 in the morning wearing jeans and an old t-shirt because I knew I would spend the next 10 hours working. And I did. By evening, the house looked beautiful. My parents loved appearances. The Dixon family lived in a large white house outside Boston. 4 bedrooms. Perfect lawn. 2-car garage. Everything neat and polished. The kind of house that made people think the family inside must also be perfect. My father, Harold Dixon, had retired from a bank 3 years earlier. My mother, Patricia, never worked a paid job, but she acted like she ran a company. She controlled everything. Church events. Neighborhood fundraisers. Family holidays. Every detail had to look perfect. Then there was my younger sister Megan. Megan was 3 years younger than me, beautiful, loud, and always treated like the center of the universe. She married Derek Hartley, a corporate lawyer who wore expensive suits and talked like every conversation was a business meeting. They had 2 children. 5-year-old Oliver and 3-year-old Sophie. And everyone in the family acted like those children were royal babies. Especially my mother. Whenever I visited my parents' house, the same thing happened. "Wendy, move your car," my mother would say before I even stepped inside. Why? Because Derek is bringing the Lexus. It looks better in the driveway. So my old Honda Civic always stayed parked on the street. I never argued. That was my role in the family. Quiet. Helpful. Invisible. I worked part-time as an accountant from home. Flexible hours. Decent money. Nothing impressive by my family's standards. But there was another part of my life nobody knew about. A secret. 3 years earlier, my boyfriend Kevin ended our relationship after 4 years together. I still remembered the exact words. "I love you, Wendy," he told me one rainy evening, "but I'm not in love with you anymore." I sat there frozen while he rubbed his hands together nervously. Then he said the sentence that stayed inside me like a knife. "You're always just there. Just there. Like furniture. Like wallpaper. Like someone people stopped seeing." After he left, I wandered through downtown Boston feeling numb. Somehow I ended up inside a pawn shop. And that's where I saw the camera. A used Canon DSLR. It cost $180. I should have saved the money. Instead, I bought it. That camera became the only thing in my life that truly belonged to me. I started taking pictures of people others ignored. An old woman sitting alone at a bus stop. A tired janitor drinking coffee at midnight. A street vendor rubbing his sore hands after standing outside all day. Invisible people. People the world looked through. Just like me. I created an anonymous Instagram account called Invisible Women. No real name. No face. Only photographs. Over 3 years, strangers from around the world followed the page. 12,000 people. 12,000 strangers saw my work more clearly than my own family ever saw me. But I kept it secret. The camera stayed hidden in the back of my closet wrapped in an old cashmere scarf. The only person who knew was my Aunt Ruth. Ruth was my mother's younger sister. According to my mother, she was the family disappointment. She never married. She moved to California 20 years earlier and opened a cafe with a pottery studio in the back. She wasted her life playing with clay, my mother always said. But Aunt Ruth was the only person who ever truly listened to me. Every Sunday night for 7 years, we talked on the phone. One night, I finally sent her one of my photographs. Her response made me cry. "Wendy," she whispered over the phone, "this is extraordinary." Nobody had ever called anything I made extraordinary before. She encouraged me to keep taking pictures. Keep posting. Keep believing in myself. Then 3 weeks before the anniversary party, she changed my life. "Wendy," she said carefully, "I hope you're not upset, but I shared your Instagram page with a gallery owner I know in California." My stomach flipped. "What?" "His name is Marcus Coleman. He owns Coastal Light Gallery in Monterey. He emailed you because he wants to discuss your work." I nearly dropped the phone. "That email was real?" "Yes," Aunt Ruth said gently. "And he thinks you're talented." Talented. The word felt unreal. That night, after staring at the message for nearly an hour, I finally answered Marcus Coleman's email. Then came the anniversary party. By 6 o'clock, I had finally changed into a simple black dress. Nothing fancy. My mother stopped me in the hallway. "Is that what you're wearing?" she asked. "It's black," I said softly. "I thought it looked okay." She frowned. "It's fine. Just don't draw attention to yourself tonight. This evening is about your father and me." I nodded. I always nodded. Guests arrived at 7. Megan entered 15 minutes later wearing a bright red designer dress while Derek followed behind her carrying Sophie. My mother practically ran across the room. "Oh, look at you," she cried. "Beautiful as always." Then she proudly introduced Derek to everyone. Derek just became partner at his law firm. Everyone clapped. Nobody noticed I stood nearby carrying a tray of appetizers. At one point, a woman reached for a crab cake and smiled at me. "Are you with the catering company?" she asked. Before I could answer, my mother stepped in. "Oh no," she laughed. "That's Wendy. She's helping out." Helping out. That was my entire identity. Later, Derek walked over holding Sophie while Oliver pulled at his sleeve. "Can you take the kids?" he asked casually. "Megan and I need to mingle." "Not please." "Not thank you. Just expectation." So I took them. I fed them dinner in the kitchen. I cleaned juice off Sophie's dress. I stopped Oliver from running through the house screaming. By the time I returned to the dining room, dessert was already being served. Nobody had saved me a plate. Then came the announcement. My father stood up and tapped his fork against his champagne glass. The room became quiet. "Patricia and I want to thank everyone for joining us tonight," he announced warmly. My mother smiled proudly beside him. "To celebrate 40 years of marriage, we've decided to do something special." He paused dramatically. "We're taking the whole family to Hawaii next week." The room exploded with excitement. "Oh my goodness! How wonderful! That sounds amazing." Megan squealed happily. "The kids are going to love it." My heart lifted. For once, I thought maybe I would actually be included. Maybe I could finally relax. Maybe I could sit on a beach and stop being useful for a little while. I stepped closer and smiled. "That sounds incredible," I said. "What time is our flight?" The second the words left my mouth, the room changed. My father looked uncomfortable. My mother's smile tightened. They exchanged a quick look. Then my father cleared his throat. "You don't need the flight information, Wendy." I blinked. "I don't understand." "You're not going." The room fell completely silent. 30 people watched me stand there holding a dirty dessert plate. My mother spoke next like this was the most normal thing in the world. "Someone has to stay behind and watch the children." I stared at her. "But, You said the whole family. Megan and Derek need a real vacation, my mother replied sharply. You don't have anything important going on. Derek nodded. It's only a week, he said. The kids love you. The kids love you. Like that explained everything. One woman whispered to her husband nearby. Poor thing, she murmured. She must be used to it by now. That hurt worse than anything else. Because she was right. I smiled the same fake smile I had worn my whole life. Of course, I said quietly. I understand. Then I walked into the kitchen before anyone could see my face break apart. I stood at the sink gripping the counter. Something inside me cracked open. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just enough for the truth to finally enter. They didn't see me as family. They saw me as free labor. The party continued without me. I washed dishes while laughter drifted through the walls. Later, Megan walked into the kitchen with her wine glass. Don't be upset, she said casually. I kept washing dishes. You know, Derek and I really need this trip. Parenting has been exhausting. I said nothing. Besides, she continued, you're amazing with the kids. They'll barely notice we're gone. Then she pulled out her phone. Derek made a schedule for you, she said. Oliver needs eardrops before bed now. Sophie can't eat strawberries anymore. She kept talking like everything had already been decided. Like my life belonged to them. That night, after midnight, I sat alone in my parents' kitchen trying to send work files to a client. My laptop was at home, so I opened my mother's computer. Her email account was still logged in. I should have looked away. But then I saw a subject line with my name in it. Wendy situation. My chest tightened. I clicked. The email thread was between my mother and Megan. Keep Wendy here to watch the kids, my mother wrote. She doesn't have anything important to do anyway. It's like having free help. Then Megan replied. She'll probably feel useful for once. Kind of sad honestly, but it works out perfectly for us. I read the words again. And again. Free help. Kind of sad. I took screenshots. Then I sat alone in the dark kitchen realizing something horrible. I had spent 32 years trying to earn love from people who only valued my usefulness. I drove home at 1 a.m. My apartment was tiny and outdated. Beige carpet. Cheap furniture. Second-hand couch. My mother once called it depressing. But that night, for the first time, it felt safe. I stared at Marcus Coleman's email glowing on my phone. He wanted to meet me in California. I called Aunt Ruth. She answered immediately. What happened? She asked softly. So I told her everything. The Hawaii trip. The humiliation. The emails. When I finally finished speaking, Aunt Ruth stayed quiet for a long moment. Then she said the sentence that changed my life. You can leave, Wendy. I swallowed hard. I can't just disappear. Yes, you can, she replied firmly. You've spent your whole life asking permission to exist. Stop asking. I cried after we hung up. Not because I was sad. Because deep down, I knew she was right. By 6 a.m, I was packing. 3 suitcases. My camera equipment. My laptop. The cashmere scarf wrapped around my old Canon. And for the first time in my life, I chose myself. 2 days later, I returned to my parents' house. My mother sat in the living room organizing vacation outfits. Megan scrolled through hotel reviews. My father read the newspaper. I need to tell you something, I said. Nobody looked up at first. If this is about the children's schedule, my mother sighed, Megan already texted it to you. It's not about that. Now they looked at me. I'm not watching the kids, I said carefully. I'm leaving for California tomorrow. Silence. Then Megan laughed nervously. What? I have a work opportunity there. A work opportunity? My father repeated. Yes. Megan stood up quickly. Wendy, stop joking. We're counting on you. You planned around me without asking me. My mother's face hardened. This is unbelievably selfish. Selfish? I repeated quietly. You excluded me from the family vacation in front of 30 people. That's different. How? Because Megan needs help. I looked at her for a long moment. Family comes first, right? I asked softly. Yes. Then why wasn't I family enough for Hawaii? Nobody answered. Finally, my father lowered his newspaper. If you leave, he warned, don't expect things to be the same when you come back. I nodded. I understand. And for once, I truly did. The next day, the emotional attack started. My mother left voicemail after voicemail. You're tearing this family apart. Your father is devastated. Megan cried all evening. Then came Megan's messages. I don't understand why you're doing this to me. Don't you care about your family? And finally, you're going to end up alone like Aunt Ruth. I stared at the text. They meant it as an insult. But Aunt Ruth owned her own business. She created art. She built a life she loved. Maybe ending up like Aunt Ruth wasn't a threat. Maybe it was freedom. I turned off my phone. Then I left Boston. The drive to California took 5 days. I stopped at tiny roadside motels. I ate alone in quiet diners. For the first time in years, nobody needed anything from me. Somewhere in Nebraska, I pulled over and watched the sunset spread gold across the open fields. I lifted my camera. Click. My first photograph as a free woman. On the 4th day, I called Aunt Ruth from Arizona. I'm nervous, I admitted. You should be, she said warmly. Big changes are scary. But scary doesn't mean wrong. When I finally crossed into California, I rolled down my car window and smelled the ocean. The Pacific stretched endlessly beside me. Blue. Wild. Open. I cried so hard I had to pull over. At sunset, I arrived at Aunt Ruth's cafe in Carmel by the Sea. The little building looked like something from a storybook. Blue shutters. Flower boxes. Warm lights glowing through the windows. Aunt Ruth stood outside waiting for me. The second I stepped out of the car, she hugged me tightly. Welcome home, she whispered. Nobody had ever said those words to me before and actually meant them. Life in California felt unreal at first. My room above the cafe overlooked the ocean. Every morning I worked the breakfast shift at the Ceramic Cup. I poured coffee. Served pastries. Talked to kind strangers. And every afternoon, I worked on my photography. Then came the meeting with Marcus Coleman. I walked into Coastal Light Gallery wearing the nicest dress I owned. The gallery walls glowed white beneath soft lighting. My stomach twisted with nerves. Marcus looked nothing like I expected. No expensive suit. No cold attitude. Just kind eyes and silver hair. He smiled warmly when he shook my hand. Wendy Dixon, he said. I've been excited to meet you. Excited. Nobody had ever sounded excited to meet me before. He showed me my photographs displayed on a screen. Then he stopped on one picture. An elderly woman standing alone at a bus stop. This image, he said quietly, is extraordinary. My throat tightened. She waited 40 minutes for a late bus, I explained softly. Nobody offered to help her. Marcus nodded. You notice people others ignore. That's rare. Then he looked directly at me. I want to offer you a solo exhibition. My brain stopped working. What? 15 photographs. 6 weeks from now. We'll cover printing and marketing. You'll receive 60% of sales. I just stared at him. A real gallery. A real exhibition. My name on the wall. A few days later, I signed the contract. Artist, Wendy Dixon. Seeing my name printed there almost made me cry. For years I had done everything quietly. Cooked. Cleaned. Babysat. Helped. Nobody celebrated any of it. But now, for the first time, something belonged to me. While I built my new life, my family went to Hawaii. And apparently, the trip became a disaster. Without me there, nobody knew how to manage the children. Oliver screamed because nobody packed his favorite beach toys. Sophie developed an ear infection. Nobody remembered where the medical information was stored. My mother complained constantly. Derek became frustrated. Megan was exhausted. Then the messages started. Where are Oliver's medication records? What bedtime story does Sophie like? What do the kids eat when they refuse dinner? I ignored every text. I was too busy preparing for my exhibition. And then something unexpected happened. Megan searched my name online. For the first time, she found something besides invisibility. 6 weeks later, my gallery opening arrived. The space looked beautiful. My 15 photographs hung on bright white walls and black frames. A string quartet played softly near the entrance. Guests filled the room holding champagne glasses. People had come to see my work. Mine. I wore a navy blue dress and lipstick. I barely recognized myself. Aunt Ruth handed me a champagne glass. How do you feel? She asked. Terrified. She laughed softly. That means it matters. Then Marcus approached smiling. Congratulations, he said. Your first piece just sold. I froze. What? He pointed toward the bus stop photograph. A small red dot sat beside the price card. Sold. $3,000. $3,000 for something I created. I thought my knees might give out. Then the gallery door opened. And my stomach dropped. Megan and Derek walked inside. Still slightly sunburned from Hawaii. Still carrying the same energy like the world should rearrange itself around them. Megan rushed toward me dramatically. Wendy, she cried. We've been so worried about you. Guests turned to look. The string quartet faltered slightly. I stayed calm. This is unexpected. We had to come, Megan insisted. Derek looked around the gallery with confusion. You did all this? Megan asked. Yes. Since when are you a photographer? Since 3 years ago. Nobody asked. That shut her up for a second. Then she leaned closer. I'm pregnant again, she whispered. And I really need you to come home. There it was. Not congratulations. Not pride. Need. Always need. Mom can't handle the kids, Megan continued desperately. Derek's busy. I need your help. Before I could answer, Aunt Ruth stepped beside me. She's not moving back. Derek frowned. With respect, this is family business. Aunt Ruth laughed sharply. You mean the family who called her free help in private emails? Megan went pale. Around us, people stopped pretending not to listen. A wealthy older woman named Mrs. Patton stepped closer. She called you what? Megan looked panicked. We didn't mean it like that. How did you mean it? Mrs. Patton asked coolly. I realized something important then. For the first time in my life, people were listening to me. Not ignoring me. Not dismissing me. Listening. So I stepped forward into the center of my own gallery. Megan, I said calmly, I hope your pregnancy goes well. Truly. But I'm not coming back to Boston to raise your children. Her eyes widened. You don't understand. No, I interrupted gently. You don't understand. I pointed toward the photographs. This is my career. My work has value. Tonight alone I've sold thousands of dollars worth of art. The room stayed silent. You spent years acting like my life didn't matter because it wasn't useful to you, I continued. But I matter even when I'm not serving someone else. Megan started crying. Real tears this time. Then Marcus began clapping. Aunt Ruth joined him. Mrs. Patton lifted her champagne glass toward me. Soon the entire room applauded. Not for the art. For me. For finally choosing myself. I nearly cried. Then the gallery door opened again. And this time my parents walked in. My mother looked furious. My father looked uncomfortable. Guests immediately sensed tension. Wendy, my mother snapped. We need to talk. I walked toward them slowly. You flew all the way here? Of course we did, she hissed. You abandoned your family. I stared at her. No. I stopped abandoning myself. Her expression hardened. You're behaving selfishly. I almost laughed. Selfish? You excluded me from the family vacation because you needed free childcare. That was one trip. One trip that revealed the truth. My father sighed heavily. Wendy, your mother is only trying to say. I know exactly what she's trying to say. I pulled out my phone. Then I opened the screenshots. My mother's face lost all color. I read the emails aloud. Keep Wendy home. She doesn't have anything important to do anyway. It's like having free help. The gallery became silent again. Every single person listened. Then I read Megan's reply. She'll probably feel useful for once. My sister looked like she might collapse. My mother opened and closed her mouth speechlessly. Finally, Derek snapped. This is ridiculous, he barked. Families help each other. Mrs. Patton crossed her arms. Families also respect each other, she replied coldly. A woman nearby shook her head. Calling your daughter free labor isn't love. More murmurs spread through the room. My mother looked horrified. Not because she hurt me. Because people were watching. That was always what mattered most to her. Appearance. Reputation. Control. Aunt Ruth stepped forward quietly. I think it's time for you all to leave. Nobody argued. For once, my mother had no power. She turned sharply and walked toward the exit. My father followed silently. Megan lingered behind crying. I didn't know you felt this way, she whispered. I looked at her sadly. No, I said softly. You just never thought about it. That hurt her more than yelling would have. Before leaving, she looked around the gallery walls. At my photographs. At the people admiring them. At the life I built without them. And for the first time, I think she finally understood that I had always been more than the family helper. After they left, the room slowly relaxed again. Marcus handed me another glass of champagne. Well, he said with a grin, that was unforgettable. I laughed shakily. Was it terrible? Honestly, he replied. Everyone here is going to remember your name. By the end of the night, 8 photographs had sold. $14,000 total. My share was $8,400. I stared at the numbers in disbelief. That was more money than I usually made in 3 months. Then Marcus handed me another business card. Mrs. Patton wants to commission more work from you. A commission. Collectors wanted more of my photography. People valued what I created. That night, I carried the remaining photographs upstairs to my room above the cafe. Then I placed the check on my desk and stared at it for a long time. Pay to the order of Wendy Dixon. Proof. Proof that I mattered. 2 months later, my life looked completely different. I worked mornings at the Ceramic Cup. Afternoons in my photography studio. Marcus planned my second exhibition. A local magazine placed me on the cover beside the headline. The artist who learned to see herself. Messages poured into my inbox from women around the country. Women who felt invisible in their own families. Women who spent years sacrificing themselves. Women who forgot they deserved lives of their own. Some messages made me cry. Thank you for showing me I'm allowed to leave. You made me realize I'm more than what I do for others. I thought I was the only one. My family reached out occasionally too. Megan texted after her daughter Charlotte was born. I congratulated her and mailed a gift. Nothing more. My mother called once asking if I was done with my phase. I deleted the voicemail. But my father surprised me. One evening, I received an email. Only 3 sentences. Wendy. I saw the magazine article. I'm proud of you. Dad. I read it 5 times. Then I saved it. Because even though it came far too late, part of me still needed those words. Today, I'm sitting in my studio overlooking the Pacific Ocean. The old Canon camera from the pawn shop still sits on the shelf beside a newer camera I bought with money from my photography. One camera reminds me who I used to be. The other reminds me who I became. My second exhibition opens next month. It's called Boundaries. 15 photographs exploring the space between family and freedom. Between love and obligation. Between helping and disappearing. I think it's the best work I've ever done. Aunt Ruth still brings me coffee every morning. Marcus still calls with new opportunities. The cafe regulars ask for my favorite table by the window. People know my name here. Not because I serve them. Because they see me. I'm not rich. I'm not famous. But I'm finally visible. And that's enough. I still haven't returned to Boston. Maybe someday I will. But never again as the unpaid helper. Never again as someone waiting for permission to matter. A few weeks ago, I found an old self-portrait from my tiny Boston apartment. In the picture, I looked exhausted. Small. Defeated. Like someone apologizing for existing. I deleted it. That woman doesn't live here anymore. Now I take up space. Now I say no when I mean no. Now I create beautiful things. Now I understand something I wish I had learned years earlier. Love should not require you to disappear. Family should not only value you when you are useful. And setting boundaries is not betrayal. Sometimes the bravest thing a person can do is walk away from the people who only notice them when they stop giving. That's what I did. And for the first time in my entire life, I finally feel free. If this story moved you, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more real-life stories like this. And tell me in the comments, what would you have done in my place?